Hi there and good afternoon. My name is Jason, and the plant that I have right here behind me is Nerium Oleander, also referred to just as oleander. It is midsummer here in California, and that is when this plant is in bloom. It blooms spring through the fall, so it has a very long bloom season. And there's so many different colors. As you can see behind me, there's some like pink blooms and there's some white blooms, and if you look down, like there's just all these flowers. It's a very floriferous plant. It's a very tough plant. This plant's origins are from the Mediterranean region. That is where the crossroads are for Africa, Europe, and Asia. But yeah, in California here, it's a great plant. I like it as a freeway plant. One thing to note though is that this plant is very toxic. Every part of the plant is toxic. It's a lethally toxic plant, just like a leaf or two is lethal. And so I recommend, always have caution when you have children and pets. I would keep this plant and distance this away from them, just to be safe, but to each their own, but just know that this is it's known as one of the world's most poisonous plants, which, makes it deer and gopher resistant, which is pretty awesome. It makes it a great freeway plant where no one's really like hanging out around it, or in a parking lot. I'm in a parking lot right now, and it's just a lonely parking lot. So this is thriving here just fine. As far as the sun requirements, the sun needs are part sun to full sun, or full sun to part sun. The more sun, the better the blooms. If you have not enough sun, sometimes that can delay the blooms and they just might be a little late and maybe not as many. As far as the size, this plant can grow anywhere from 10 to 20 feet tall and 10 to 20 feet wide. As far as, and yeah, let's get a look at those flowers. These are pink, and they're just really, and here's the close-up on the leaves. As you can see, it has these like pointy, narrow, entire leaves. But yeah, it's pretty neat. As far as the nutrient requirements, you just need to fertilize it if you want to in like the spring or the summer, maybe once a year with an all-purpose garden fertilizer like a 5-5-5 or a 10-10-10. Otherwise, all this plant really needs is a side mulch in the fall. So it's a pretty like nutrient-dependent plant. As far as the soil pH, it's very adaptable, anywhere from like slightly acidic to alkaline, so you can grow it in a number of different soil pHs. As far as the type of soil, you can grow this in sand, loam, or clay. I do recommend amending the clay though for a better growth and a better growth habit of this plant. It is a very tough plant though. As far as pruning, you want to take special note on pruning. So you want to prune it, before the flowers bloom in the early spring, or after the flowers are done in the fall. And I wouldn't prune it down more than a third in each session of pruning. But make sure, the biggest things is to wear your protective gear. I recommend wearing goggles. I recommend wearing a breathing mask, a long sleeve shirt, pants, shoes, and gloves. And when you prune it, just know that all parts of the plant are toxic. So keep that in mind, like when you're working away. I would prune, from the top down, because if you're pruning, well, yeah, either direction really works. But yeah, just be careful when you're pruning this plant. And I don't recommend pruning more than a third in any one session. As far as your protective gear, I'd recommend your pruning. Once you're done, take your clothes, wash your clothes, and go take a shower. As far as animal ingestion, like if you have cats or dogs, one way I think that maybe not everyone is conscientious about how they can consume it is because, we all think of, the most obvious way of consuming this plant is to like bite a leaf off or bite a flower off and chew it up. And then if they spit it out, all they did was chew it and maybe swallow some of the oils in it. If they swallowed it, then they obviously ate it. But cats and dogs, they clean themselves by licking the fur. So if they walk through a bunch of pollen and sap and they get it all over their paws, and then they proceed to clean themselves afterwards, they're ingesting it in that way. How lethal is it as far as the sap and the pollen? I'm not really sure, but I do know that they're both toxic to cats and dogs. So do keep that in mind too if you have pets. It's always like a good thing to keep in mind. Even like if you have Asiatic lilies, a way that cats and dogs can, consume that plant that is toxic to them is by walking through it and then like cleaning themselves after walking through the pollen. But you know, this is oleander. It is a beautiful plant. I think it's perfect on the freeways, you know, and the deer aren't eating it, the gophers aren't eating it. It's toxic, and it's not necessarily a bad plant for being toxic. It's just good at defending itself. You know, every plant is different at defending itself. You know, they do so that they're not overeaten by herbivore animals or plants that would otherwise eat it. They produce these compounds as a defense. So this is Nerium Oleander, and it is in bloom. If you have any other questions about it, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed and you want updates on my newest videos, please subscribe. And once again, my name is Jason. Thanks so much for hanging out.